I knew from just a little girl that I always wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to help people on a journey of learning and watch them go from one point to another. And so throughout elementary and high school, I was able to just work as a helper in different classes. And when I went to college, then that was the degree that I pursued. I attended college in 1985 is when I went and graduated in 90, and I went to school in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, we met in college, and I remember seeing him attending different classes. I was a cheerleader, he was a basketball player, and so our paths had to cross lots of times, and I made sure they crossed frequently. And we were married after I graduated, and I taught there in a school in Jacksonville while he finished his undergraduate degree. And then we went to San Diego, and the purpose of that was my husband took a teaching position and a position in a church working with teenagers and with music, and I was able to continue teaching. And it was there that we were introduced to the Hispanic culture. San Diego is very close to the border of Mexico, and so we were able to be introduced to the culture, the language, the people, and we just began seeing the needs that were in other countries. And in 2000, our family left America, moved to Peru, South America, and worked there for 15 years as we worked in nonprofit projects in religious organizations, helping in orphanages and bringing water and food and training, and just being able to invest in people. We came back every 3 to 4 years normally, and so for our children, Peru was definitely their home, and we would go on vacation and go to America. I had several opportunities to teach in what they would call an American school, where there were some courses offered in English. We were able to teach religious courses as well, and then we also taught in what they would call estatal, which is a public school that is funded by the government. So we had that opportunity. Then I was also given a lot of opportunities to do training and leadership for the teachers. My first experience in teaching in America, I was in a school that had 1,600 students, and so I was accustomed to the American way of teaching. Going to Peru, the classes a lot of times are just as large, sometimes larger. You could have up to 45 to 50 students in a class. And so teaching in an environment with this many students, I have done that frequently. There are several contrasts, and it's actually called reverse culture shock is what happens when you come back into your host country, which America would be for us. One of the things is that where we lived in Tacna, which is on the border of Chile and Peru. The people do not have the modes of transportation that you have here. So most people end up walking to and from work, to and from school, to and from the mercado, to and from their tiendas. And so you see a lot of people on the streets, and you are conscious that there are other people around you. In America, people have a private bubble. They stay in their cars, their windows are up, this is my space, don't invade my space. And that is a very different cultural aspect from what we saw in South America. Another thing is when we would go to a mercado, which are open markets, we would go to the mercado to get food, and you selected from what was right there in front of you. When we come to America and you walk into a grocery store, you see maybe 30 or 40 options for cereal. Whereas in Peru, you had maybe 1 or 2. And so it's almost overwhelming the options that you have here. Either you had bread or you didn't have bread that day. Here in America, not only do you have bread, you can buy it in a roll, you can buy it sliced, you can buy it long, it can be brown, it can be rye, it can be raisin bread. There's so many options that sometimes that's overwhelming as we adjust back to that. Materialism in America has overtaken even the youngest children. To walk into a restaurant and to see a 2 or 3-year-old with a device, playing a game, being on a phone, and that has, the family unit has changed completely since we were gone. In Peru, it is very much centered, their culture is centered around their families and family time and communicating. They don't have the devices that steal from the family time. So I think that's been something that's been really different too. In 2014, our youngest daughter, who was 5 at the time, contracted Chagas disease. We were up in the jungle up in Juliaca, and at some point in that trip, we don't know where or when, she was bitten by a bug, and that bug entered into her nervous system. It's attacking her heart right now, and we sought medical care there, but because they are not up to where we are here in America, they could not offer what we needed. We ended up flying back and forth several times with her to the Mayo Clinic, and eventually they said, you need to bring her back and stay stateside in order to guarantee any type of quality of life. And so that's what brought us back, was the health of our youngest daughter. I am teaching Spanish 3, HL, IB Spanish 1, and IB Spanish 2. How I met Mrs. Fisher is really cool, actually. We had just come to Michigan to accept this interim position, and our 2 younger girls needed activities to keep them busy throughout the summer. And so we enrolled them in a gymnastics class, and I was speaking to my girls in Spanish because we had just come back into America and they were only fluent in Spanish. And Mrs. Fisher overheard me speaking to them because her girls were in the same class. And so that we began a conversation, and we would see each other occasionally at class, and that's where our friendship began. I found out about the position through Mrs. Fisher. She approached me and let me know that her husband's job would be taking her to California for a specific period of time. And that was last year, but I was not able to accept or pursue that position. I had other commitments at that time. I was teaching Spanish for an elementary school. So this was pretty much, I had not thought about it again. And then she mentioned something to me this summer, and then Mr. Suchowski contacted me a couple of days before school started. The goals that I have are very simple, and that is to take them from the knowledge that they have and take them as far as I can take them. One of the things I'm seeing is that there is an incredible base that has already been built, which is very good. It's a very solid base. I see that the students have a wonderful grasp of Spanish grammar, and I'm hoping that this year I'm able to bring the practical side of Spanish. Take what you know, put it into action, and how can I apply what I know? How can I confidently speak with a native Spanish speaker and walk away from the conversation knowing that I was understood, that I communicated well, and that I understood what was spoken to me?